Gonna watch this 5-minute video put out by Suspicious Observers today, titled Magnetic Pole Shift. When it's time, it's time. And that magnetic pole shift is why we see plasma fire. I will give a quick explanation using a diagram of Lenz's law, how magnetism produces electricity and electricity produces magnetism.
Good evening, folks. We'll do two things in this video. Dive a bit deeper into the importance of this morning's top story on the sea turtles, and review why the ongoing attempts to quell fear about the ongoing magnetic pole shift of Earth are very false, and that it is in fact a big concern. First, year over year we are seeing more and more unusual mortality events in the animal kingdom. While a couple can be pegged to shipping vessel interactions, the biggest and most widespread ones are almost always unresolved mysteries in terms of the cause. However, one thing those officials never look at is the magnetic field changes of Earth and what role those might be playing. It's remarkable how well that would explain so many of these events, because as we went over in our most recent book, it's not just animal migration, foraging, hunting, reproductive activities, even storm pattern recognition, all partially tied to magnetic sense. Now, when it comes to the turtles, the fact that scientists, quote, can't figure this one out is just so pitiful. Loggerheads are one of the species best known for using magnetic field for navigation, especially those in the Gulf of Mexico, along which this most recent event is taking place. They home in on the North Magnetic Pole, which is moving from its former location in northern Canada across the Arctic towards Siberia. So when the turtles home in on that pole and migrate, they will hit the beaches before they think they should, causing these higher numbers of strandings, taking them into unfamiliar places. They knew for generations how far north to go based on the magnetic field, but that field is now changing and tricking them into going into new territory. As if the varying unusual mortality events weren't eye-opening signs of the biosphere distress, it's only going to get worse as the magnetic field loss allows more ozone destruction and UV stress to add to the equation. But there is now a concerted effort to quell fear about this ongoing event, and it began right after Berkeley confirmed a study by the USGS suggesting that Earth's magnetic field can flip very rapidly, within a human lifetime in some cases. We are 150 years into this ongoing event, and that puts us squarely in the red zone. But right after that, the heavily CIA-influenced group at MIT tried to toss water on the flames, saying Earth's magnetic field was stronger than it had been in the past, and that meant we didn't have so much to worry about. Well, first of all, they studied 5 million years of data, which is less than 1% of the more than 2 billion years of paleomagnetic data available, which is like studying a dead body and making detailed judgments about the person's entire life. Second, considering the dire implications of a magnetic pole shift, that's like being at the top of this roller coaster and trying to calm people down by telling them how high up they are as they stare down at what's about to happen. And for 6 years since that MIT report came out, it was that logical concept versus the seemingly untouchable experts at MIT. You can guess who most people believed. Then this happened, the definitive study of a previous period of high geomagnetic strength, just like we have now, and shocker, it didn't matter. When it's time, it's time. The strength of the field during an interval between magnetic events is irrelevant. The field can shift regardless of the overall magnetic field strength. This goes for full chron reversals every few 100,000 years, and for the more regular geomagnetic excursions, which we are definitely in right now. MIT's denial of the risk, which already didn't make sense, is now debunked. The biosphere is already taking hits, and just for your recollection, a reminder about the cycle we're in now. The last several geomagnetic excursions are pretty darn well evenly spaced, occurring about every 12,000 years and accompanied by major climate changes. The younger Dryas climate event happened with Gothenburg 12,000 years ago. Lake Mungo geomagnetic excursion also marked the last glacial maximum 24,000 years ago, and perhaps no greater changes can be seen over the last 100,000 years than those that occurred simultaneously with Le Champ 40-something thousand years ago. Data does vary on the exact timing of that one. We are right on time for the next event, and, shocker, the magnetic shift is happening again now. We have already seen one of the primary accelerations where the field was weakening 5% per century at the start, to now 5% per decade according to the ESA, and where the magnetic poles are speeding up their shift as well. Best guess on timing is the late 2030s to 2040s for the full flip event, but obviously, things don't wait to get bad. They're getting rough now, and they're going to continue until the next age of Earth begins. When it's time, and it's time. Be safe, everyone.
So to start with, when he says that MIT is trying to downplay the risk of our magnetic field shifting by saying the strength is double what it always was, I know that MIT is in fact heavily influenced by the CIA, because that's where Boston Dynamic, MIT is Massachusetts Institute of Technology. That is where Boston Dynamics is located, and they are who produced the Big Dog, they call it, which was produced by DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. Those things that they call Big Dog, which is a robotic dog, is now patrolling the streets of New York. It's 15 or 20 years old, and they've got many different versions of it. They've got the robotic cat that's like a cheetah that runs 70 miles an hour. But Big Dog, built by Boston Dynamics, was funded by DARPA, and it all went through MIT. So I can confirm that MIT is heavily influenced by the CIA. And the fact that he's telling you and showing you that they are trying to downplay this understanding of the magnetic situation we are in also kind of comports with the fact that my YouTube channel has gotten censored, but that is a good thing. Because, as AWOL Nation says, it's only gonna be a little time before we start to lose our minds. That is because, A, when we don't have a magnetic field, people lose their minds, and that was proven by the Russian cosmonauts. When they went up in space, the first one lost his mind, and they brought him back down, swapped him out with another one, and he lost his mind too, and then they quickly figured out, oh, we need to produce an artificial magnetic field around the capsule when we send them up there. And then they were able to maintain their mental faculties. Also, if people knew about plasma fire to the degree that I've documented it, and that was mainstream, went viral, people would be losing their minds. And now I'm about to show you how I know that the magnetics are the reason for the plasma fires. Before I do that, let's clarify one thing. These are 12,000 year intervals. And we've already been tracking the magnetic excursion, as he says, for over 100 years, and his estimate is late 2030s to early 2040s. You cannot narrow down a 12,000 year cycle to 8 years. 2030 is only 8 years away. So what he's saying is that by the end of this magnetic excursion, by the total pole flip, will be within the next 8 to 10 years, maybe 20 at the most. I think he too is trying to maybe maintain some semblance of calm within the public by not saying it could be tomorrow. And December 21st is when the Earth reaches its maximum tilt and then tilts back the other direction for the season. If we make it past December 21st this year, then we probably have at least another year to go before the magnetic pole reversal, where it flips. And with the increase of plasma fire that I've documented over the past 4 years, for the first 3 years, I had never documented a live plasma fire. In the summer, 5 years now, the summer of 2018, 19, 20, 21, and now the summer of 2022. Up until the summer of 21, I had never filmed a live plasma fire. I now have at least 4 of them on video, and the roadside car fires are the remnants that I started documenting in the summer of 2021, because roadside plasma fire was so ubiquitous, and everywhere I go, I wouldn't be able to get from my shipper to my receiver. There's locations all along the way that I would be pulling over to film these plasma fire remnants if I was to keep filming the wood. It's everywhere. But what I did notice an increase of is roadside car fire remnants, and I have proven in that last video I did, where I put a link in the description titled Vaporized Vehicle on the Side of the Road, that proves that that car fire was directly related to the plasma fire, because the car fire remnants are right in the middle of a circular burn pattern that goes all the way around the car, maybe 100 feet to maybe 300-foot radius around where that car debris was, is burned trees that have the plasma fire signature. So those roadside car fires are provably, at least in that case, a plasma fire, because it left the burn signature on the trees around the car, showing that the car was at the center of the circle of the burn pattern that goes out into the trees. So when he says late 2030s, early 2040s, I think he knows that's a real, he's being very generous. So when they revise the data to show that, oh, it's weakening 10 times faster than we thought, not 5% per century, it's 5% per decade. It also increases a geometric curve. It's not a linear graph. It's not a mathematical arithmetic. It's geometry. So the curve of the graph is going to hit a point where it escalates real fast, 5% per year instead of every 10 years. And based on the rate of increase of the frequency of plasma fires and the fact that I'm now filming them live and they're all over, I would say we've hit that curve on the graph where it exponentially decreases very rapidly. This is a diagram depicting Lenz's law. This thing in the middle is a magnet going through a copper tube, and when you drop the magnet down through the copper tube, it creates an anti-gravity effect. Because the magnetism, these are the magnetic flux lines, as it goes out of the magnet through the copper tube, the first time it turns it from magnetism here to electricity here. And as it comes back down and goes back through the copper tube, it turns it from electricity back into magnetism at a reverse polarity. So this magnet, as it's falling through the tube, pushes against a reverse polarity that's created just below it, which makes it fall very slowly through the tube. They use this technology on the braking systems of roller coasters and trains and other such things. But my point here is that magnetism and electricity always go hand in hand. There is, with every magnetic flux line, there is an electrical flux line offset by 90 degrees. You don't need to understand that part. But magnetism, as it comes out, creates electricity here, and then the electricity goes back through the copper and creates magnetism. Much like the alternator on your car, as the magnet spins around, the magnetic flux lines are broken by the copper coil that surrounds that magnet that's spinning around inside your alternator. And each time those magnetic flux lines are broken, it sends an electrical surge down your battery cable to charge your battery. There's also those flashlights just like this, where you shake the magnet back and forth, and there's a copper coil right here where this red line is. Imagine that being a copper coil. Each time the magnet crosses that copper coil, the flux lines are broken and it sends a surge of electricity into that copper coil up to the battery or the bulb, whichever it's hooked to, or both, in those emergency flashlights that you can shake in order to you have a battery a flashlight that's powered by shaking it. By shaking the magnet back and forth to break the flux lines each time the magnet crosses past the copper coil. Same idea as your alternator. And I've put it in many videos. I will also include the link in the description of this video where Skywatch Media explains that he titled his video, Sudden Vibration, Unexpected Vibration in the Magnetic Field Creates a Sudden Surge of Ground Current. Same idea. That magnetic field, magnetism and electricity always go hand in hand. So somehow, that's about the extent to which I understand it, somehow our magnetic field is fluctuating and creating the same surge of electricity as in your alternator in your car, as in the flashlight that has a magnet in the middle and a copper coil going around it, whether it's using our molten core of our Earth. Maybe we have a metal molten core in the middle, or just the metal in the ground. The magnetic field is creating the electrical surge that is coming up through the trees and burning them from the inside. Or when these plasma fires hit an urban area, burning the houses to the ground and leaving the trees standing, melting the engine blocks and the rims and the door handles and the glass of the cars that it hits. That huge amount of electricity that is creating these plasma fires is directly related to our weakening and fluctuating magnetic field. And because I made such a crappy presentation of this the first time, I'm going straight to my inbox on Gmail to show you the dates. March 15th, your account is deleted because it looks like you were using it to do bad stuff that we don't approve of. March 15th, also right here. The email related to my other account that was deactivated a couple days ago is jeff.snyder@gmail. Even if only the 19-second video is all I can retrieve, that would be fine. Again, March 15th. After a review, we have confirmed that your YouTube account is not in violation of our terms of service. As such, we have unsuspended your account. This means your account is once again active and operational. If you forgot the password, please check here to get your password back. This is August 5th, 25th, 2021. 2.5 years later, where I thought I might hit them up and see if they want to give me those 300 videos back. There were all of my videos that were not reinstated after my account was reactivated. Is there any way we could get those videos back? I would be very appreciative. Just like MIT downplaying the magnetic pole reversal, so it is. They're not going to give me those videos back, because that was the sun tunnel video. This one's titled Interdimensional Dogfight with 2 Orbs, 1 TR-3B, and a Death Star. Listen to what I say.
Jeff Snyder. It's Friday, March 15th. My YouTube page was taken down yesterday, and I'm relaunching it now. All the wood you're looking at was burnt by solar plasma, a solar flare. And I'm just going to go about this in kind of a freehand way. That's the fiber optic cable sign that led me to the realization that these underground fiber optic cables are being used in conjunction with these directed energy weapons that use solar plasma. This is the truth.
So at the time, I was still under the impression it was all directed energy weapons. I didn't understand yet that it's due to the magnetic pole shift. And they would prefer you to believe that it is all directed energy weapons. That way you believe it is man-made. And if we can find the men behind those weapons, then we can put a stop to this. Because if people knew it was part of a natural phenomenon that no government has any control over, they would become completely ungovernable. So they would prefer the narrative of directed energy weapons be associated with these fires.
They don't want me getting out. However, there's something even larger here that I've discovered within the last half hour, 45 minutes. So I'm still kind of reeling, and I'm going to move right along and just show you that and then get back to all of this. And I'll show you that the burn lines in this, they follow the grain of the wood. You'll never see any kind of fire that matches these burn line patterns. I'll come back to all of this. For now, what I've discovered, they took down my YouTube page, and I would like to ask for people's help in demanding that 19 seconds of video back from YouTube, because it was given to me to relay to you, and they stole it from you. That did not belong to them. That did not belong to me. That belongs to all of us, because the message on there is detrimental to the future of humanity. I am not over-exaggerating or inflating that one bit. I'm sure you'll agree by the end of this presentation. So what you're looking at are screenshots and still frames. I'm going to explain to you how I came across that 19 seconds of video within the last week, that asking for anyone's email address that I can send these still frames and screenshots to in order to preserve them in case they take my YouTube page down and my email this time. I've still got these paper copies and I'll still bring it back again. And in the last 30 minutes I found an addition. And that's kind of how the Lord works in mysterious ways. If they wouldn't have shut me down today, I wouldn't have been looking at this and I wouldn't have seen what I just saw. So let me back up and slowly walk you through this. 8 months ago in August, in Spanish Fork, Utah, I filmed 2 simultaneous fires starting at once with 2 colors of smoke. And then I went and I retrieved all that.
So there's 8 months worth of video from my very first plasma fire video to the day when they wiped it out because I filmed that sun tunnel. They let that sun tunnel video stay up for 1 or 2 days, but it was like the last video I had uploaded. So that is definitely why they wiped my channel. And that's all I'm trying to show you, is that that's really what happened for those that aren't aware or still have trouble wrapping their mind around it. I've done screenshot slideshows. I will put them in the description of this video where you can see what I'm trying to show you here with the paper copies. And the reason I went to paper copies is because when I did screenshot slideshows, they would pixelate it out and reduce the resolution to where you couldn't hardly see crap. In a video that I posted not too long ago called 10th Level Jedi College Part 1, right there, Part 1. Plasma powered, no, those aren't it. It's Space Force transiting the solar portal, Triangle Man and the Death Star close-ups, UAPs traversing the plasma portal, TR-3B enters plasma portal, Toyota versus TR-3B. Those are all the original screenshot slideshows I made that have since been clarified. They're not as pixeled out as they used to be. The best video I've done on this is Space Force transiting the solar portal remastered, where you can see one of these craft here, one of the craft there, and the Death Star over here. So there's 3, one there, and one over here, just in that frame. And you can see the plasma bands. So go ahead and watch this one, Sun Tunnel Remastered. I'm just going to let you watch the first couple minutes since that's all the memory I have on this one. Watch the original linked in the description. There's much greater clarity. So I'm about to cover the album covers by Journey and Boston. And then I'm going to come back to these sun tunnel images because it looks like I found a way to transfer them a little bit better without getting all the lines. So of course we'll look at that one, and this one, and this one. But even for the old viewers that have seen them all, there's images that I'm about to show that have not been seen yet. The new images are before it gets fully engulfed in the plasma bands that surround it, and the craft that are transiting through it are clearly visible. There's a point at which the plasma bands only go 3/4 of the way around it, and up here at the top left, they seem to terminate right there. And there's one of these craft right there on the line. I'll get you a better shot of it. Watch the original. This is blasting out on the light. It's right there. And because these plasma bands terminate right on the line where one of these craft is transiting the portal. Sorry, that's a magnetic flux line breaking right there where the pen is pointing. And 6 sides flat on top. There's a side. There's a side. Watch the original. It's much better visual quality. There's a side. And there's another side down here. It's a 6-sided sun. So my point is, though, here's one broken magnetic flux line. And another one has 2. 2 broken magnetic flux lines over here, one going this way and one going vertical. And when you break the magnetic flux lines, you can see solar plasma. 6-sided sun. When you break the magnetic flux lines, that's when solar plasma comes pouring through and they charge the directed energy weapons like solar magnetic amplification causative configurator, or SMAC, SMACC. Watch the original.